Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name's Deborah Garlick from Henpicked Menopause in the Workplace and Menopause Friendly Australia. And this is our Lunch and Learn session, and I'm delighted to welcome a newbie to the Lunch and Learn team, which is Lavina Mehta. Now, we met at an event in London. Hiya. And I was absolutely blown away by this amazing book, which I've not been able to put down. You can't really see it. Can you see it there yet? There you go. Which is The Feel Good Fix. And do you ever have those days when you really, really need a fix? So welcome and thank you very much for joining us, Lavina.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Deborah.
And I've got to ask you because I've been using this one. I've not put this book down, so it's a highly recommended one for me. But primarily because, like so many of us during the menopause, I'm experiencing. Well, I'm post-menopause, but that doesn't mean to say I'm post-symptoms. Still working and always busy, and do like to look after myself. So to me, this was flicking through the book and thinking, I can do that. I can do that in a short period of time. And I love the concept of snacking in terms of exercise. So what was it that actually made you write this book?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. You are now, I'm glad, like me, a snackaholic, which is what I want the whole world to be. I do feel it's a bit of a game changer. Like you said, we are all leading such fast-paced, busy lives. And when I discovered exercise snacking, which is going back in 2018, I looked at the science of exercise. So I only qualified as a personal trainer at the age of 40. I'm now 46. And it's because of what exercise, especially strength training, did for me quite late in life, in my 30s, that I'm very passionate about trying to spread the health benefits, not just how we look, but our mental health, all our bones, brains, hearts, our muscles, our joints, all the things that we get affected by, especially during menopause, and disease risk reduction, which is so high and prevalent. We have more risk, obviously, as we go through menopause and beyond. So exercise snacking, I discovered, and I thought, oh my goodness, I want the world to know that actually, if we can't fit in that hour-long workout, which a lot of us maybe can't, we can do as short as a minute. In the book, I've referenced like 40 pages of studies. It's all backed by science. There's one that even shows 4 seconds of something higher intensity, just like doing some star jumps, on the spot, at the coffee machine, at work, or when you're working from home. And so I wanted to really spread that awareness. And what it's showing us is that it's as effective, if not more effective, than the longer workouts. So these bite-sized amounts are great for things like our blood pressure, our cholesterol, our blood sugar levels, even weight management, metabolic health. So I'm very passionate about type 2 diabetes, and being an ambassador for Diabetes UK. It's things like movement and our lifestyle that can help reduce risk of so many of these chronic illnesses. And I feel we're just sitting too long, Deborah, especially I think maybe in your community that maybe hybrid working or even in the office, technology has taken over our lives. So it's how we can break the day up and sprinkle these snacks in.
And that's what I love. I have to say, I went to Body Pump last night. And probably about 5 minutes into it, I wasn't actually going to go in. I felt quite tired actually by the time I got there. And if it hadn't have been for one of my friends who saw me drive into the car park, and I thought, oh, it looks very busy tonight, I'll go on the treadmill. And
Yeah.
she said, opened the door and said, I've saved you a spot.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, how can I not now? I've got to go because Jem saved me a spot kind of thing. And it's like, oh, I was guilted into it. And while I was doing it, and it is a 45-minute class, and I do actually love it generally. But when you're really tired, I was thinking, I'm sure there's an 11-minute thing I can do in this book rather than do this for 45 minutes. So, it's mixing it up as well, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, you touched on it. I think especially, men and women, but especially me going through perimenopause, when we hear so much around symptoms where women are lacking, energy, maybe our sleep's been affected. I mean, the symptom list is nearly 40 to 60 symptoms. But I know that the power of movement, it straight away helps release those feel-good endorphins. It does give you that little mood booster. And what I really love is that you touched on 11 minutes, and that's based on a study that I found when I wrote the book. Literally, as I was walking into the publisher's offices at Penguin, the study came up in 2023 showing that 11 minutes is brilliant in terms of showing that we could reduce our risks of 1 in 10 premature deaths, 1 in 20 cases of cardiovascular disease, which we know is the world's biggest killer, and 1 in 30 cases of many cancers. And for me, I just read that and I thought, this is so powerful, because I'm not sure if you know the government guidelines of exercise, but so many people aren't able to hit them. And, it's just our busy lifestyles. I want it to be accessible. I want you to be able to do them from wherever. I think the pandemic really helped when I started doing free workouts, that, it gave people the confidence of being able to work out from home. I'm encouraging everyone to do it in the office as well, whether it's, like balancing on one leg while you're at the coffee machine, to just doing some press ups against your desk and adding in some squats every half an hour when you've been sitting too long. Just turn your Zoom or, Teams cameras off on virtual meetings, or eventually, I'm very passionate like you about going into workplaces. And I always say I'd love it to be embedded in the culture, because we know that not only does it give us the mood boost, but it's going to help with your productivity, your creativity. And as organizations, we want happier, healthier employees. We know how many sick days go with just stress. So yeah, 11 minutes was quite a game changer. And it's good to point out that you could even do 11 minutes smaller snacks. Like you've seen in the book, it's got a delicious menu, as I say, of over 80 free tools that you can do as short as a minute to 10 minutes. So it's a very flexible pick and mix approach. I just want you to kind of open it up, find something, and there's a mood menu, because sometimes we're not all up for something higher intensity. I have quite a holistic approach, especially to movement, where it could just be some gentle mobility exercises, because we're all suffering from tech neck. I do the desk resets in my book. It's the analogy of a desk. So if anyone's watching now and you feel like you're hunching over like most of us when we're sitting or looking at our phones and laptops, you can just lift your shoulders up, then back an inch or two and down the spine. And that's like a desk shape. And everyone I say this to is now, they feed back and say to me, oh, I'm doing your little desk reset snack automatically through the day, when I'm driving, when I'm cooking, whatever you're doing. So it's not just always about high intensity workouts. It's about listening to your body, your symptoms, how you're feeling, and I think tailoring movement to it.
And that's amazing. I was doing the desks then.
Yeah.
I've been doing some various snacks. And one of the things, because my husband says I'm a slave to my iWatch. I close my rings every day and I'm proud of it. But there's closing your rings and there's closing your rings, isn't there? So last week I managed to get to the gym, didn't go into the class. I had got it booked, but I didn't go into the class. So I thought I'll just go on the treadmill for a bit and go for a walk. But instead, being with you in mind, I don't know if you're going to approve this. Instead of just doing the walking on the treadmill, I changed the setting into dynamic, which means the treadmill's not moving. I have to move it. Right. And so then I started doing some lunges on the treadmill. And it probably looked like some sort of Monty Python sketch going on. And I could see people alongside me looking at me sideways. And I just thought, well, I'm just going to do it, because that's my lunges are better for you than just sedentary walking, aren't they? That was one of the messages I picked up.
Yes, so I would love everyone over the age of 30 to be doing some sort of strength training. So lunges are a perfect one, where it's a compound exercise. You're getting all your lower body muscles engaged. And strength training is really important, especially for women over the age of 30, because that's when we start losing our bone density and muscle mass. And unfortunately, as we get older and as we go through everyone's going to go through, if you're a woman, the menopause. And it's about just knowing how important it is, because the muscle mass decreases even more once you're in menopause and beyond. And obviously we hear a lot about things like osteoporosis. Sarcopenia is where you start losing your muscle mass. And strength training is exactly the type of snacking that I want everyone to be doing. It could be, you know, in the book you've seen, there's like a snack for 5 minutes that just covers like the full body, but it's things like the squats, the lunges, the press ups, the dips, things that we can do everywhere. And then you start off with your body weight and you slowly start adding in weight. And you may have seen, you know, the free workouts I still do that I started in the pandemic with my amazing mother-in-law, which you know, we've had up to the age of 100 join, because I want to make movement so accessible to all ages and abilities. But you don't even have to have be in the gym or have weights. We use tin cans, we use obviously plastic bottles, safe household objects. If you can get dumbbells, brilliant. Sometimes it's a squat with a, you know, rucksack on my back. If I'm waiting for the train, I'll just put in 20 squats. And I'm so glad, Deborah, because you're making this normal, which is what my goal is, to normalize movement. So it's not just me getting the weird look. The more of us that start doing the snacking, that really helps get my sort of mission out there.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of things that you mentioned there, because many of us that when we're going through the menopause, you kind of can lose your confidence a little bit. And if you've started to put a little bit of weight on, you don't really necessarily feel like putting the Lycra on and going off to the gym, and you might feel more self-conscious. But this is something that you can do at home while you build up your confidence and your strength and
Yes.
how you
Yes.
feel.
I mean, this morning I'm in a hotel room. I literally have filmed something that I will share, you know, at some point on my social media. It's just me in my pajamas doing my daily wake up stretches. So it's just like a nice easy flow, because I didn't have much sleep last night. So I was just listening to my body. I think it is very much about staying in tune with your body, adapting it. And it just made me feel so good, because I was then connecting with the breath. So it helps to kick in your parasympathetic nervous system. So when we are all potentially in this, you know, fast-paced, quite stressed out mode, especially when you're working hard, and you're in that fight or flight mode, what I've researched also, so in the book you've seen, it's not just exercises. I have a whole range of like mental health, what I call mind snacks, techniques like breathing, the breath snacks, where we can reset our nervous system just in a minute. And this is stuff that you could do if you're faced with anything difficult, like at work, you know, if you've got you're facing your boss, or you've got a difficult conversation, or you want to talk about your menopause, or, you know, moments where you may be slightly feeling a bit anxious, you could just go into the bathroom and, you know, practice one of the breathing techniques like the box breath, or just breathe in for 4 and exhale for 6, and do a couple of rounds. And the science is showing us how effective that is for alleviating stress, calming the nervous system down. I've also got, you know, I've touched on like self-care, I've touched on the power of nature. I always encourage people to try and get outdoors. And, you know, sometimes we can't fit in for 30 minutes of moderate aerobic activity. So like a walk or a swim or a cycle, but even breaking it up. And I call them feel-good walk snacks. You've probably seen on Instagram every day. I just post them in the hope that it will just help one person. That's my goal. But being out in nature has incredible benefits for our mental health. And when we look at trees and plants, I don't know if you've read the section on nature, but there are things called fractals. And, you know, they're just found, they're geometric shapes that we find in nature. Just by exposing ourselves and looking at them, you can reduce your stress levels by up to 60%. So walking meetings, you know, like if you can, instead of if you can do a face-to-face meeting, if you're in the office, or if you can, rather than send an email, if you can just walk down to your colleague and maybe ask them if they want to go out for a little walk, I guarantee it will boost productivity and creativity, and probably a better, you know, outcome for your company as well.
That's absolutely amazing. And I'm sure people are thinking, right, where do I start with this? And of course you can get the book. But you know, if you're going sort of 0 to actually starting to introduce these? You might not, do you start small? Do you just sort of sit down and put your plan together?
So I've got, obviously in the book, I've thought this through. I've got different little snack plans you've probably seen of, and I've even got it, based on mood, whether you're tired, whether you're feeling anxious or whatever. So 11 minutes would be a great goal to aim for. And you could just literally pick and mix. So you could just start trying things out, finding the ones that you like. There's QR codes to the videos in the book. So I really want people to, if they don't know how to do certain exercises, it's about doing them correctly, because I don't want anyone to get injured. It's always about starting off small, I feel, because that's the best way. I think having that flexibility is great, and then finding what you enjoy. So, I've touched on strength training, even if it was just to say, and I believe in sort of this snack size goal setting because I was an ex-project manager in the corporate world. So I always go to SMART goal setting, which I've talked about in the book as well. But if you could just maybe commit to something really achievable, and realistic, like I'm going to set an alarm every hour. I'm going to make sure my meetings are a little bit shorter, or eventually I want companies to have that little window where we can have that movement or activity break. And I'm just going to do something. So you could make a little list from the book and just say, I'm going to do a couple of stretches for 3 minutes, or I could do my sit and stand that I'm like raring to go, once it's 30 minutes, and maybe just add in some squats at your desk. I'm going to try and step out for a little feel good walk, and I'm maybe going to end my day with a little bit of stretching, just to ease out the tension and probably also help your sleep. So the couple of ideas, but I have got 11-minute plans, and then I've also got the longer plans for people that hopefully once you start snacking and it gives you that confidence and you see the difference on your mood, your energy, your sleep, hopefully it encourages people to do a little bit more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And whilst I was saying that about not wanting to go to Body Pump last night, I did come out going, "La,
Yeah.
I've done it. There is my halo." And finding things that you enjoy doing
They're all
is
different.
so much better than signing up for things. Because people always say, "Well, what's the best thing to do?" And it's actually the stuff that makes you feel good is the best stuff.
100%. Yeah, listen to your body. We're all so different. And we are talking about menopause. We know that menopause affects women so differently. 1 in 4 may have no symptoms, and 1 in 4 may have debilitating symptoms. And our hormones are constantly fluctuating. So I think that's where I feel this snacking approach makes it a little bit more approachable, a little bit kinder to ourselves. I feel the self-care is something that we really need to invest in. And I say exercise for sanity, not vanity. I was double my size before I started my strength training journey, which was in my 30s. I wish it was a little bit earlier. But it's never too late to start. And although yes, I may look great, it's about how I feel, most importantly. So it's reframing the way we look at movement as well for our long-term health. I always emphasize to women that the weight gain, which I'm sure may be a question I always get asked, is actually our body's doing something quite amazing and trying to hold on to the estrogen, and it's normally around your belly, unfortunately. But it's things that you enjoy and that maybe you can add to your own, what I call feel good toolkit. And it's just about that. It's trying different tools and seeing what works for you.
Absolutely. I'm very much in I'm sure I've written it somewhere around the mood and the mindset and things, because when you're so busy, you can put everybody else first.
Right.
And this is just a little bit of time for you.
That's it. Self-care isn't selfish. In fact, the more we do for ourselves, especially as we get older and we have more challenges in life, the more we're actually going to be able to give to those around us, be it your family or your employees or your colleagues. So it's always, I feel like self-care definitely isn't selfish. We've got to try and get that message out there.
That's wonderful. Well, I can see that Sally has been exercising her fingers on the chat. Sally, over to you.
Yeah, again, I've put in the chat, but thank you. So many people are sharing their experiences, encouraging each other, saying what's working for them. Lots of people have either bought the book or are buying the book. So we've had some really lovely feedback on that. So first question is, and you've kind of touched on this, but how much exercise should we aiming for a day? I know we talked about the 11 minutes, but is there a kind of an ultimate goal we should be working towards?
Yes, definitely. So start off with aiming for 11 minutes. I feel that's, much more approachable and accessible. But the government guidelines are actually 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity over a week, as well as 2 to 3 strength training workouts. And if you are looking to do something higher intensity, so if you're a runner or if you're into your HIIT, that's high intensity training, you could aim for 75 minutes of higher intensity rather than the 150 minutes of, the walking, swimming, gentler activity. So we're still, unfortunately, especially in the UK, I mean, stats across the globe are showing that we're not able to hit those guidelines. And being able to hit those guidelines is amazing for disease risk reduction. We're talking between like 30 to 40% of things like dementia and Alzheimer's to 30% reduction in risks of depression to everything from diabetes, I think it's breast cancers. Like, it's just incredible if we can hit that ultimately. But for me, it's also like what Deborah was saying, sometimes if you are the type of exerciser that just does it in the morning, because I'm sure you have some very, in your community, you may have some individuals that might be that 5 or 6 a.m. club if they're working and they get to the gym or they do their workout from home. What worries me is then sitting down for, up to 10 hours a day. That's the average at the moment. And our sedentary lifestyles is what I really want us to, I say sitting is the new smoking just because it's a powerful kind of alarm bell when people read that in the book. And I've written a study, I've referenced a study that says that 2 hours of sitting can negate 20 minutes of movement. So just to put it in context, it's not that, please do that morning workout. And I'm saying please just keep moving just a little bit more, but knowing that every minute counts, I think, is the message. And the more you do, the better it is for your metabolic health, your metabolism. If you're looking for weight loss, it's definitely going to help. So those are the goals that I want to obviously make people just start and increase the amount of movement through the day.
Yeah, fantastic. And someone's asked around strength workouts and what would you mean by the 2 to 3 strengths? They've asked whether cycling or aerobics would be considered that, or just talking about a little bit more around what you mean by strength training.
Sure. So unfortunately, cycling falls into the aerobic activity, so not the 2 to 3 strength training workouts. I would love people to do a bit of strength training every day. So the government guidelines are very vague around this, but I'm imagining, where you have to have like a 45-minute to an hour session. They're saying 2 to 3 times a week, which again might be unachievable to most. Strength training is all about a weight-bearing exercise where you're having a load. So you can start off with your body weight, and that's similar to obviously do check out, I have loads of free workouts on YouTube, and I'm very active on social media, especially Instagram. If I was to give an example, like the squat, because the squat is a brilliant exercise that we can even do now, where you're just sitting and standing. You start off with your body weight, but then you add in some weights. So you progressively overload, which is where your muscles will then start building that lean muscle mass. And muscle mass really is the key to longevity. I've written extensively about why muscle is so important. But yeah, it's unfortunately the aerobics, it depends if you're maybe holding some light weights, maybe if you're applying a little bit of load, but I would say more structured strength training. But even if it's like a 5-minute strength training, a strength snack, if you do that there's even over the age of 60, you know, there's a study when I do these workouts with my mother-in-law every week, and I'm getting people that are stuck behind their desks or working from home join, because their desk-based exercises also have standing options. But there's a study just, you know, for anyone older as well, that 2 5-minute strength snacks a couple of times a week have been incredible for people's overall body strength, for their bone density, you know, for helping conditions like osteoporosis. So I hope that helps. You can have a little look at the book, but it is about getting some weights, and eventually if you can increase the weight, or then you change, maybe you just challenge your body. So maybe you add in more reps, or maybe you add in an extra set, or you have less rest time. I've kind of explained it all, very detailed in the book, but I also have lots of free content out there.
Fantastic, thank you. And motivations come up quite a lot around how do people get motivated, keep motivated, because people are saying that they're finding that hard, and how they can maybe attach it to habits, especially snacking.
Yeah, so that's the main one, which we haven't touched on. So it's all about trying to piggyback onto your existing activities. So if, you know, if any of you followed me, you'll see I have a snack that's called the balance snack, and balance is so important because, you know, it actually we start losing our sense of balance in midlife, which people don't realize. And obviously we want to reduce the risk of falls as we age. But I brush my teeth on one leg. So Deborah, I don't know if you're doing that one yet, but it's you know, it's based on a study that just very morbid, but I will say it. If you're not able to balance on one leg for 10 seconds, it's a real predictor of your mortality. So you're twice as likely to die in the next decade. So when I read that, I was like, wow. Obviously, you know, I want the elderly that I help with the free workouts to be able to just even do 10 seconds is great. But if we're more able, brushing your teeth on one leg for about a minute on each side is a great way to just do it. And I do it automatically now. It's just part of brushing my teeth. To maybe, like I'm saying, when the kettle's boiling, or when you're in the kitchen and, you know, you've got something in the oven, or you're preparing your vegetables and you've got that time to maybe sprinkle in just some star jumps, and they don't have to be high impact. I show low impact without the jump. You could just sprinkle in a bit of boxing, and I usually just grab some tin cans, you know, in the kitchen, and I'll just start marching on the spot. And boxing is such a great stress reliever that it's bottling up. I feel for me, there's been so many times when I've been doing free workouts for the last 5 years, and there's been times where I've said to the camera, I really didn't feel like doing it as well, because I'm only human and there are times I don't feel like doing it. But any time after a workout, or after a little snack, even just a few minutes, I automatically feel the difference in especially my mental health, in my mood, in just the way I feel better. And I think capturing and like bottling up that feeling is hopefully that motivation. So, you know, I talk about journaling in the book, the science behind journaling, writing things down. Sometimes it is things like that that we need to sort of note down, see how it's helped you, and hopefully that will give you the little urge to keep moving and keep snacking.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I think just one final quick question just to fit in, just around strength. So people have said things like legs, bums and tums, conditioning classes, weight machines, those are all considered strength training. Would you consider Pilates strength training?
So Pilates and yoga are brilliant. They are using your body weight. I wouldn't consider it specifically progressively overloading in terms of strength training, which I think is really the key about building lean muscle mass and our bone density. So Pilates is a brilliant, and I always bring it in. You know, I've got some bits in the book as well that cover it, because it's so important for your core strength, for our backs. And again, it's, you know, movements like that that are nice and slow, a little bit gentler, when you need that gentler workout. But I would encourage you to even using resistance bands, which I think someone's popped into them. And I've got a band snack. I used a pair of old tights in the pandemic when people didn't have access to resistance bands. Those are then starting to engage your muscles, and that's where strength training, I hope, is kind of a little bit different, but I hope everyone is doing, or starts doing.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope everybody is inspired to go out there and snack. When have you ever heard me say that before? But it's a brilliant book. But more than that, I love the balance in it. That, you know, you don't have to, you're not signing up to all of these things, you're working up to it gradually. And, you know, for me, the sentiment of it's about sanity, not vanity, is
That's my
absolutely key.
slogan. 100%. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sally, and thank you to everyone who's joined us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.